What is going down, my YouTube family? It is your boy Zeri from the XMG, coming at you today to bring you the next installment in my tier list, Goblins. But before we get into that, we are so ever close to the goal of 650 subscribers. So, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. If you are a subscriber, turn on notifications, like the video, share them, all that good stuff. Sorry for the lack of videos this weekend. Our office has closed and we are working from home now. I was building this and I decided to put up the old green screen because I have a lot better lighting and where it is. So let me know what you think of that. So we are going to get into Goblins, but before we do that, let's take a look at where we were at. So here's where we were. 3 legendaries, 7 rares, 5 uncommons, 10 commons, and 6 trash. Now, like I said, orcs was my most commented video where people disagreed with me, and that's what it's all about, so that's fine. And just so you all know, why I give a lengthy explanation is I'm trying to explain why I'm putting them there. And some people like that, some people don't. So that's where I'm at with this video, so that's what I just wanted everybody to know. So let's get into General Murdock. So here's General Murdock. He is the first 330 legendary unlock in the game. He is a super cool character. I was not lucky enough to get him the first time around, but having the test account, I'm able to play around with him, and he is just frankly awesome. So let's get into his move kit. One thing that really does well is he's constantly inflicting debuffs, and he does an extremely good job of that. First ability, basic ability, he inflicts a damage decrease for 2 turns. On his basic, again, we have that 1 single tenacity potency check. On his second ability, it's a trap, 400% of physical damage, and then if the target is affected by slow, he's decreasing turn meter by 50%. If the target is inflicted by a damage decrease, he calls in an ally to assist. So playing off his basic, and it's a trap, but he's missing the slow component until slow bombing, where he deals 250 physical damage and a 70% chance to inflict slow. So you can see off his move kit, his potency it must be high, and we want him to go relatively fast. He does call an assist. And then his passive ability, he gains 30% more potency against members of the Order and elves. I don't care for this passive. I wish it was a flat rate of potency regardless of who he fought. Maybe even 15 or 20% would make a big difference in where General Murdock stands for me. And then his leadership ability, upon landing a critical hit, all allied goblins recover 20% of their turn meter and have a 50% chance to call a random goblin into assist. Can be triggered once per turn. So as you can see here, just extremely cool. The assists can ramp up and they can really be devastating. Even with the decreased damage, you can do a hell of a lot to make this work. So let's take a look at some of his stats here, just so we can kind of see what I don't like and what I do like from his stats. His stats, he has a really good base speed of 155. Definitely seen better. Definitely seen worse. His physical damage is over 3,000 at 3044. He has pretty good armor to start, so you really can't complain about his armor. His potency, though, is only at 26, and for as much as he needs, it is really a drawback for me, for him, is that he does start with a low potency. Even in the grand scheme of things, it's mid-game, or middle of the pack there, but it's still a low potency. So where do I have General Murdock ranked? Taking everything into consideration, General Murdock definitely falls into the legendary category for me. He is a true legendary. He is extremely good and can only get better once the Nisa, the healer for the Goblin factions, come out. He could only be a better Goblin leader. Just all in all, brings a lot. Can be used as a plug and play, but his real viability for me comes within his leadership. Okay, next up on the list we have Major Shot. If you've been watching my channel, you all know that I have a love for Major Shot. He's one of my favorite characters in the game. So let's take a look at his move kit. Now his move kit to me could be one of the most underrated move kits in the entire game. Now his basic ability, he deals 220 physical damage to the target and 60% of the physical damage to all other enemies. So he has a built-in AoE on his basic. His second ability, the little goblin that could, It switches into a battle mode, dealing 230 physical damage. When he's in this ability, he has a 70% chance to stun enemies for 1 turn. So he has an AoE stun. Then his flash bang, he inflicts blindness for 1 turn and heal block for 2 turns on all enemies. So again, he can have that AoE. So fantastic move. Then his passive ability, he restores 1 turn of a random ability at the start of his turn, so he can decrease his cooldowns. He does have a leadership, which is subpar compared to that of General Murdock, but allied goblins deal 25% more damage if there is a member of order in the enemy party, so most likely they're going to have Soleus, so that really benefits there. And upon landing a critical hit, goblins have a 50% chance to increase the cooldown of a random enemy by 1. So it's not the worst leadership. It's kind of a plus and a minus for me when it comes to major shot. It is something that is definitely beneficial if you don't have a General Murdock lead, but it's quickly outshined by General Murdock. So looking at his stats, he starts out with a base speed phenomenal 164, so that is really, really good. His health and shield combination is on the lower end, right around 33,000, so it's not terrible, but it's not the best in the world. His critical chance is at 28.8, so that is pretty good to start. His armor, especially his magic armor, is definitely on the low side, so he is squishy. And then his potency is a 10. So that is really, really rough for major shot. So let's take a look and see where I have major shot. Now looking at the list, I have to put my bias aside with major shot and look at what we have. Major shot for me definitely comes in at an uncommon. He is a very good uncommon, but he's just not rare for the simple reasons, for the fact of he is extremely squishy, very easy to take out. His kit is one of the best in the game, which definitely makes him an uncommon, nothing lower than that. But he's so dependent on potency, and when starting with 10 potency, just really brings it down. Now, if his potency to start was 26, 27, he would be a rare for me. Even though he is one of my favorite characters in the game, I still have to put him at a uncommon. Alright, next up on the list we have Instructor Goran. Instructor Goran is a newer character to the game, and he has 1 node to farm off of, so people might not know exactly how good he can be and how much fun this character is to play. He is just an insane amount of fun to play inside of a goblin team, or even without a goblin team, but he's definitely way more fun under a General Murdock lead. So let's kind of look at his move kit and tell you what I like and what I don't like about his move kit. First ability is Well Done, 240% physical damage, and then he calls Adam in to assist. And if the hit is critical, Adam gains taunt for 1 turn, so he's benefiting probably one of the worst tanks in the game by giving Adam a taunt if he scores a critical hit, so it's definitely dependent on critical chance. His Piggy Cry, he summons a half-pig henchman with 60% of his health and his damage. And I wasn't sure how this was going to play out, but the mechanics of it actually work very well, so that is a plus for him. But it sucks that you're wasting a turn just to call in a half-pig henchman. Now, if you called them in and they automatically took a turn, that would be great, but they don't. So you're essentially wasting a turn to get him in. And then getting work done, 330% of physical damage, calls all living half-pig henchmen into assist, and restores 1 turn of ability to all allied half-pig henchmen. This is where it can get insane. If you've called in 4 or 5 of them, you can really do some crazy stuff, and you're decreasing the ability turn cooldown by 1, so you can stun with them. You can put on a couple different debuffs with them, so you can definitely do a lot with the pigs. But you gotta have this ability kind of ramped up, and you gotta have more than 1 really to use it to its full potential. And then his passive ability, crit damage by 40%, and an additional 5% for each living half-pig henchman in the party. This is a fantastic passive for him. It is for sure an amazing passive. And as you can see, or maybe not because I might be in the way, now you can kind of see I have full crit runes on him, and there you go, that's a little better. So having full crit runes on him means You want him to crit, because then he gives Adam the taunt on his basic, and then he's doing more crit damage just based off his passive. So take a look at his stats, and maybe there's some good things in there. He has a base speed of 125. So he's slow to start, and I have all critical chance, and I got him up to 170 speed off secondary stats with the primary speed stat in that northeastern rune. So 170 isn't terrible, and it's pretty much all done off of secondary stats. Then you have the health and shield combination of 45,000 to start, so that is really, really good. Can't complain there. He does have very good magic armor. His physical armor is kind of lacking, but his magic armor is very good. Then he has a 30.1% critical chance to start. That is just absolutely fantastic. And 30 potency, which is on the higher end. So he does have some very good stats. So where did I put this new character in Instructor Goran on the list? Now, looking at Instructor Goran, his kit is actually built very well for him. He's a hell of a lot of fun to play. But where does that make him rank? I have him coming in as uncommon. He is a very true uncommon character. He can do a lot of good things within the Goblin faction, and he can be a modest plug-and-play character if it's a longer battle. He does have the survivability to last, so he is a true uncommon. His low base speed is definitely rough, but he has good critical chance to start. He's improving one of the worst tanks in the game in Adam by giving him a taunt with a critical chance on his basic. And you got to remember, under a General Murdock lead, with all these assists being called in, if he's called into assists and it crits on his basic, he can give a taunt not even on his move. So definitely an uncommon character. So next up on the list is Adam. And I've already said he's one of the worst tanks in the game, so let's see where he ranks. But let's talk about him first, so you can kind of get the understanding of what's going on. Now, Adam's kit here on his basic ability, he only deals 80% of physical damage, but it's an AoE. And he does have a 40% chance to inflict damage decrease for 2 turns, but his physical damage isn't even 100% to start on his basic. His Mecha Uppercut, he deals 330 physical damage, and he inflicts an armor decrease for 2 turns. So we're seeing a theme of potency, and the Mecha Uppercut only requires 1 of the potency tenacity checks, so all in all, not terrible. And then his protective plates, he gains shield equal to 40% of his maximum health, so he's replenishing his shield, and that's a good thing because they do have a healer in Thanisa. She's not out yet, so that kind of sucks, but when she does come, he can replenish his shield while someone else is replenishing his health. And then his passive ability, he has a 70% chance to gain taunt at the end of his turn. Downright awful move. At level 6, it should be 100%. I don't understand how a defender in the game can't physically put on a taunt. Just absolutely terrible. Then you look at his stats. He has a base speed of 100. That's even low for defender. So you're definitely going to have to waste that northeastern rune to put the speed on him. That's bad. Now his health and shield combination is 53,000 to start, so that's pretty good. Can't really complain there. Although his armor is okay, you know, when you get him fully ruined out, it's a lot better if you focus on the armor, but for a defender, he's right around 31%, 32% to start, so it's not terrible, but not the best. His critical chance is at 19%. He is a defender, so it really doesn't matter, but still 19%. And then his potency, which is very good, at 38% to start. So where do I have Adam ranked? So we talked about some things with Adam, and he comes in right now as a trash character to me. A tank defender that cannot apply his own taunt 100% isn't worth being a defender. It's just downright terrible. At the blue scroll sync you sync into him, it should be 100%. And it's 70. His potency is very good. Pairing him with Instructor Goran is definitely a huge plus because it does increase the survivability of your team quite a bit. But he just isn't what he should be in this game as a true defender. Having a mini AoE on his basic is pretty good, but you're not even doing 100% of physical damage. Just, if I had to vote for a character for a rework, it would be Adam. and that's why. Definitely a trash character. Sorry for all you Adam lovers out there. Next up on the list, Amara. Amara is a goblin fighter. She is a mage. Hidden in there. Bounty hunt. That mage tag is sneaky good. Can fulfill the cruel mage tag, so that is awesome. So let's take a look at her move kit. Basic ability, 190% of physical damage with a 50% chance to deal damage to an additional target. So she really just has her basic and then a 1 in 2 chance to do damage to a random other target. The Apocalypse Now, 230% of physical damage to all enemies and inflicts burning for 2 turns, 1 potency tenacity check, but she can inflict the burning, which is really good synergy with Thanisa, again, who isn't in the game. Then her medium well, 340 magic damage, plus an extra 60% magic damage for each burning or poison stack on that target, so you can really ramp up the damage with her. And then her passive ability is that Amara and Thanisa gave 5% of their turn meter for each stack of burning it or poison on the enemies at the end of their turn. So she replenishes her own turn meter. So all in all, a really good kit, but we can't get the full potential of it until Thanisa comes out. So looking at her stats, she has a woeful 140 speed to start, but she does recover her turn meter based on burn or poison. So we definitely got to keep that in consideration, but still 140 to start just is pretty subpar. She does have a health and shield combination of 42,000 to start, so she is not squishy. Definitely for a mage, that is fantastic. Her magic armor is much better than her physical armor to start. Her critical chance, though, is only at 18%, but her potency, 45. Huge for her move kit because you want those burns to stick. So starting with 45 potency is absolutely phenomenal. So that being said, where do we have Amara? I almost said Thanisa. So Amara brings a lot of good stuff to the game. She isn't overly squishy for a mage, which is a plus. Having a 45 potency to start is amazing, but her speed is kind of low, and she's not at her full potential without Thanisa. So where do I have her? I definitely have her as a rare. She can do some great things. She can pump up the damage. In my mind, she is vital in that General Murdock team. Being able to randomly do damage to another enemy on a basic and a assist-based team is huge. So definitely comes in as a rare, and she could be a plug-and-play character with Cruel for that mage synergy. So overall, a rare in my mind, but definitely a lower-based rare. Next up on the list, we have Sargent Pigwald, Fighter Ranger Dragon Slayer. He is a different type of character. Really, in my mind, doesn't have a lot of viability outside of the Goblin faction, but let's take a look at his move kit and talk about what I like. First ability, Pig Shot, 250% physical damage. Target is below 50% health, you deal more damage. So that is great when you're trying to finish off a tank or that healer to get them out of the way. I like the fact that if they're below that 50% health, you do more damage. So that is a plus. His lock and load, he gains charge for 2 turns. That increases his damage by 3 times. This effect cannot be prevented or removed. Now, this is really cool, but what sucks is you waste a turn. You really don't want to do anything unless you have locked and loaded up. So you're wasting a turn, not dealing damage out of a damage dealer. That's a big minus for me. Now, his Rocket Strike is awesome. 260 to physical damage to 2 enemies with the lowest health. So you can get around the taunts. And if you kill an enemy, it restores its cooldown instantly. So you can definitely get around those taunts. Those pesky, pesky taunts. Doesn't matter if they're stealthed. It means nothing. Great move. And I love the fact that it can refresh itself if you kill somebody. Passive ability increases physical damage by 30. And then each living goblin in the party, you get an additional 5%. You cannot go wrong with a passive giving yourself physical damage on a physical damage dealer. So let's take a look at his stats, though. He has a base speed of 129. That is just absolutely horrendous. You really, really want more than that on him to make him viable. But all in all, 129 is pretty crap. His health and shield combination comes in at 32k, so he is on the squishy side, so that is a big drawback. His magical armor sucks. His physical armor sucks to start. His physical damage, though, is at 3,038, so that is pretty good to start, so you really can't complain there. His potency is at 18%, although it really doesn't go into his move kit. 18, not the best, but his critical chance, 30.77, so that is phenomenal. Really like where he's coming in there. So with all that being said, where do I have Sergeant Pigwald? And we went over some things with Sergeant Pigwald, and he has some really good stuff to him and some really bad stuff to him. So that makes him a common character in my opinion. He really doesn't do a whole hell of a lot to distinguish himself from the rest of the pack. He fits right along the lines with Fow, Mar, Eric Shieldbreaker. In my opinion, he has really good things he can do, and then he has some really drawback things that make him pretty ineffective. So all in all, he comes in at a common. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm not a humongous fan of old lore. Just really don't like this character in general, but he does have some good things, but he also has some bad things. So let's get into that. Starting with his move kit, his basic ability, 260 physical damage. A dazed target will receive 340% of physical damage instead. Second ability, triple strike, attacks an enemy 3 times. Each attack deals 140% of physical damage. Dazes the target for 2 turns if all attacks hit the target. So his accuracy is big for this guy, and there's where the daze comes in, but it's on his second ability. Now, if those two were flip-flopped, that he had a chance to daze the target for 2 turns on his basic, and then he dealt more damage. If they were dazed on the triple strike, way better move kit. But the fact that you got to use your second ability first to get the daze on to do the more damage on his basic, just don't care for that. His preparation, he gains critical chance increase, a potency increase, and an accuracy increase for 2 turns, and then he recovers 50% of his turn meter. Okay, so you're using this ability first, because if you have it maxed out, great. You're restoring 50% of your turn meter, great. You're giving himself critical chance, potency, and an increase of accuracy, which you need, but you're wasting a turn essentially doing nothing. I hate those moves, and I just don't care for this one as well. Then his passive ability, he deals 30% more crit damage for each living elf in the enemy's party. So after Nightiel, who are people using in the elf party? That's right, nobody. So you're looking at 30% for Nightiel, if you're fighting Nightiel. I just don't care for his move kit. I don't think it's built properly. I'd rather see 20% physical damage, flat base, and that's it. You're not getting that all the time. And no wonder it's 30%, because nobody runs elves at all. Looking at his stats, he has a base speed of 119. That is a defender territory. Just absolutely crap. His health and shield combination is pretty good at 42,000, but he just seems to die so fast before you can really get him going. If you can keep him alive for a long time, he can be beneficial, but he's really not. Again, his magic armor is crap. His critical chance is actually middle of the road at 26.5%, and his potency is at 29, so that's pretty good. So let's see where I have Old Lore ranked. Now, we've gone over some things on Old Lore, and we've talked about what he does and what he brings to the table. And his first 2 abilities are backwards in my opinion. His passive doesn't do anything. We have to waste a whole move to increase his accuracy and all of that good stuff. So Old Lore is definitely a trash character for me. He has synergies with other characters, and they all suck. There are so many other good options in the Goblin fashion. He does not make the list at all in my team. Very easily replaced. So all in all, just a trash character that I really wouldn't sink a lot into. So there it is. There is my Goblin tier list. Let me know what you all think. Now, the Goblins are going to be in for a huge overhaul once Thanisa comes to the party. She's a 50 shard unlock, so she is going to probably come into the game like maybe I have no inside information, but maybe in the kind of next battle pass like Rin the Unseen. But she will bring much more stability to the Goblin faction as a whole. So let me know what y'all thought in the comments below. Let me know what you think. That's the list. That's what we're looking at. Now, I noticed throughout the making of this video, the green screen and the lighting, I still got to do some adjustments because my head kind of looks choppy. Don't really care for that. So trying to make more quality stuff for everybody out there. Coming up next is one of the most requested I have seen, and that is for the Pride faction. This one definitely took me a while to rank, but that'll be coming up next. So that's where we stand on that. But I hope you all liked it. And again, if you are not part of the XMG family, become part of the XMG family. Hitting the subscribe button means more to me than you will ever know. We are so ever close to the giveaway, so don't forget about that. Everybody, please be safe with all the craziness going on out there. I can't stress it enough. Listen to what they're telling you. Continue to be good. I'll work on this green screen. I love y'all. I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.